Hi everyone, today we're going to go over a couple exam FM tips as well as a few review formulas and review things that I want to go over today. So for the first thing, and now I'll just go over high level, like just general tips that I think we need to figure out, and I think it's going to be really essential for you to remember going into the exam. The first one is you always want to do the questions in your mind first. This is a very time intensive exam. One of the main things that you want to do is avoid unnecessarily writing down different parts of the question on the piece of paper. So you're going to get like around 30 pieces of scratch paper where you can do the questions. You want to do as much of the questions as you can in your mind and try to figure out an equation in your mind, and you want to minimize the number of times that you're writing on the piece of paper. And the reason behind that is because it's going to take a lot of time for you to actually draw out the diagram, draw out like every single individual step that you're going to do. But if you can sort of cut to the crux of the problem, cut to the crux of like what the problem is actually asking, you'll be able to save a lot of time. So do the questions in your mind and minimize the number of things that you're writing on, minimize writing on the scratch paper. It's going to save you so much time because this is a very time intensive exam. That cannot be emphasized enough. Very time intensive exam. You only have like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes per question, and then you just have to move on. The second thing is if you get to a point where you're at 3 or 4 minutes per question, and you think you have an idea that you're probably not going to be able to solve this, it's very essential for you to actually move on to the next question. And the reason being is because it's better to like each question is only worth 1 point, right? Each question is worth the same amount. So it's easy, it's more important for you to go on to the next question. And another sort of thing I want to mention is there's some pilot questions that actually don't even count towards your score. So you don't even know if that question that you're spending a lot of time on is actually it could be a pilot question and that doesn't even count towards your score. So if you see yourself spending more than 3 to 4 minutes a question, if you're on a question for like 5 minutes, you really just want to like pick an answer choice that you think is the best answer and then move on to the next question. Move on to the next question. So this is a similar sort of tactic to sort of do the easy questions first. If you arrive at a question you think it's going to take you like 5 minutes to do it, skip it, move on to the next question. Now, another third thing is you really want to control your mindset here and just focus on the question. Control your mindset and focus on the question at hand. And the reason you want to just focus on the question at hand is when you're going through the exam, there's going to be times where like just doubting yourself, and there's going to be times where, you're like, oh my God, I've skipped so many different questions, and you're going to think about that. But try to just focus on the questions, and this again will get better when you do practice under exam like conditions. So not just practice as in like in the comfort of your room, the comfort of your house. You want to do practice exams under exam level conditions. So this means with it being timed, with the proper calculator, with actually having a scratch sheets of paper to actually do your work on. As the more that you can mimic the testing environment and do practice exams in sort of that your mimicked version of the testing environment, it's going to help you become more equipped to what the testing environment will actually look like. You're going to be more used to the environment itself. It's going to help you aid and it's going to help you perform better ultimately. And so that's what you want to do is not just practice, right? Obviously, we know practice makes progress, but practice under exam-like conditions. And the timing is very important. You want to get an essential idea of what the time on this exam actually looks like. And the only way to do that is through practice under exam-like conditions with time. So in this case, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Don't be like, okay, 5 minutes extra. We want to practice under exam like conditions with time. I cannot stress that enough. You can do as many practice tests. It's very easy to do practice tests and practice questions at the comfort of your own time and in the comfort of your own home, of your own pressure-free environment. You can work on a question for like 15, 20 minutes, but in the time pressure environment of an exam, you really want to make sure that you practice that beforehand, many iterations. So that's one of the third things is practice under exam level conditions, controlling your mindset, focusing on the question, each individual question. Now, another thing is you want to do as many things on your calculator as possible. So there's going to be times where you just want to, oh, I'll just do this by hand. No, again, this is a very time intensive exam. You want to do as many things as possible, as many calculations as possible on your calculator. So for the bond calculation, if you want to calculate the present value of a bond, or if you want to calculate coupon amounts or coupon payment percentage, try to use your BA2 plus financial calculator as much as possible. And you need to know how to do the calculations. You need to know how to calculate present value of bond. How do I calculate book values? How do I calculate cash flows? You really want to be really accustomed to the calculator itself. Yeah, so that's me. That's I would say one of the most important things. Another thing is you really want to get an understanding of the detail of the questions. There's so many questions on these exams. Even if you look at the SOA exam FM questions, where you're given like an interest rate that's like slightly different than like what you're actually supposed to have in terms of like the payment amounts. So you really want to pay attention to that sort of detail, specifically in terms of like interest rates. Because they're going to give you like interest rates that are like semi-annual or like compounded monthly or whatever, but you're probably gonna have to convert that to whatever the question is actually asking you to actually do the problem. So you want to have that level of attention to detail when you're doing these questions. And then so some of the common formulas, obviously, like when you're using your calculator, you don't need to know certain formulas. But I would say some of the formulas that you do need to know, and the ones that have been actually extremely helpful is the Macaulay duration formula. There's going to be times where you're going to be asked to calculate the Macaulay duration of a bond. You're going to be asked to calculate the Macaulay duration of some loan repayments, and you want to be able to do that. And then you want to know the first order modified approximation as well as the first order Macaulay iteration. So those two things are pretty important for you. There's many questions where it just asks you what is the first order modified approximation. So you want to know those formulas as well. You want to know Reddington immunization. Specifically for Reddington immunization, it's going to be the first two. So the present value of the asset equals the present value of the liability. The duration of the asset equals the duration of the liability. I actually saw a lot of like exact matching questions and a lot of Reddington immunization questions and portfolio questions. So you really want to make sure that you study up on those as well. Macaulay duration for annuity immediate, you want to know that formula as well. And then obviously the typical loans and bonds that we've covered in the previous videos, you want to have a good understanding of those. And you want to be able to like do those in your mind. Like I can't like like emphasize this first point is like the more that you're able to do the questions in your mind and like just eliminate the use of like your paper. Yeah, you want to do scratch work, but only for the essential portions of like you once you like get to a final equation, then you want to write that down. You don't want to like waste time drawing out the entire time diagram and like uh, drawing the different time steps and then going through the equation, plugging in the formulas. That's going to take up a lot of your time. Try to find the crux of the problem in your mind and then use your scratch paper only when necessary. Because what I've noticed is that the scratch paper and when you sort of writing down like drawing an entire time diagram on like each sentence of the problem, that's going to take up a lot of time. And so we really want to make sure that you're doing as much of the question in your mind as possible, get the general idea, the crux of the question, how to properly solve it, and then move on to the scratch sheet of paper. Don't just immediately go to the scratch sheet of paper, writing out the time diagrams and like what the payment amounts are and whatever you need, the information for the question. As that's, in my opinion, it's a great and time and energy waster. So that's an important question. That's an important thing to remember. Obviously, time, I would say the most important thing is time. You want to do practice exams under time conditions. That's the most important thing that you can do. Not just practice, but practice under time conditions until for 2.5 hours, 30 questions. And you can't just do like take a break and then come back, take a break. No, you have to be you have to be like adjusted. You need to have this level of stamina. And you need to practice having this level of stamina for 2.5 hours. And you only be able to do that if you take these practice exams under time level conditions. And then let's go through NFL Week 5. Here, my best predictions for NFL Week 5 are actually Packers money line, which I think they're -3 right now. So that's actually pretty good value for the money line. And then the reason for this trend is that Rams actually upset the 49ers at the at 425 game earlier in the season. And so like once when a team upsets like a team 425, it's very rare for that team to upset a team again at another team again at 425. So that's a trend I've noticed with Packers money line -3. Obviously, we lost the Jets one last week, but I think this is a good pick for us to bounce back here. And I think that's about it for today. Just wanted to go over FM like some tips that I learned, and I think that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.